The coffee struck Maya Santos across the front of her grey uniform before anyone in the executive lounge decided whether to laugh or look away. For one suspended second, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. The cup hit the edge of the counter, tipped hard, and sent a sheet of steaming coffee over her sleeve and the side of her apron. Maya jerked back, more from surprise than pain, and pressed her lips together as warmth spread through the fabric. Derek Caldwell stared at the overturned cup as though the mess had offended him personally. "I said warm," he told her, "not boiling." A few people shifted in their chairs. Someone near the windows covered an awkward smile with a hand. Another employee glanced toward the hallway, then back to a laptop. No one moved toward Maya. She looked at Derek. 35 expensive watch, tailored shirt, the easy confidence of a man who had spent years being praised for numbers, no matter how he treated people between meetings. "I can clean it up," Maya said. "You'd better. And make another one." The strange thing was that Maya could have ended the moment with 6 words. "My father owns this company." Instead, she reached for a towel. No one in the room knew that the quiet Filipino woman wiping coffee from the floor was Gabrielle Navarro's only daughter. No one knew she held a graduate degree in organizational leadership, or that the CEO, whose name appeared in silver letters across the lobby, still called her Anak when they were alone. To the employees on the 12th floor of Meridian Health Technologies, she was simply Maya Santos, a newly hired custodian who wore inexpensive work shoes and tied her dark hair into a practical knot before sunrise. That was exactly how Gabriel wanted it. 5 days earlier, Maya had stood in her father's office 40 floors above Irvine, California, looking through glass walls at a city washed in pale morning light. Freeways curved between business parks and rows of trees. In the distance, the Santa Ana Mountains rose behind a thin summer haze. Gabriel had placed a folder on his desk. "Facilities operations," he said. Maya had stared at it. "You're serious?" "I am." "I thought we were discussing the director role." "We were." "And your response is that I should clean offices?" "My response is that you know how to read a company from the top. I want to know whether you can understand one from the bottom." Maya had folded her arms. "I grew up in a family that worked for everything it had." "You grew up hearing stories about that work." Gabriel's voice remained gentle. "That isn't the same thing." The words had irritated her because part of her knew they were true. Maya had been born in Cebu City. Her earliest memories were of humid mornings, jeepneys rattling past busy streets, her mother singing while preparing breakfast, and cousins filling her grandparents' house with noise. After her mother died from a sudden illness when Maya was 16, she moved permanently to California to live with Gabriel. By then, her father's small medical supply company had become Meridian, and the modest man she remembered visiting between business trips had become a CEO whose calendar required 3 assistants. He had protected Maya from publicity. She attended few corporate events, avoided business magazines, and used her mother's surname, Santos, professionally for years. Most Meridian employees knew Gabriel had a daughter. Almost none knew what she looked like. "That anonymity is useful," Gabriel had said. "For spying, for listening." He slid the folder toward her. 30 days, entry-level custodial assignment, standard schedule, standard meal allowance, no executive privileges. No special treatment unless there was a genuine emergency. Maya opened the folder and laughed once in disbelief. "You already had an application prepared." "I know, my daughter." "You were sure I'd say yes?" "No. I was sure you'd hate the idea. I hoped that would make you curious." She had signed that afternoon. The first 4 days had been exhausting but ordinary. She learned which elevators were slow, which conference rooms collected impossible amounts of crumbs, and how invisible a person could become while pushing a cleaning cart. People spoke around her as if she were furniture. They discussed salaries, promotions, vacations, junior staff and senior leadership. Some greeted her warmly. Most barely noticed her. A few became less polite because they believed politeness was unnecessary. Derek belonged to the last group. On her second day, he had handed her an empty cup while standing 3 feet from a trash can. On her third, he had asked whether she understood English after she requested that he repeat a rapidly spoken instruction. Maya had answered in perfectly clear English, and his face had changed for half a second before he shrugged and walked away. She never mentioned where she was born. She never needed to. Her name, features, and occasional Tagalog exchange with Lorna Bautista, another custodian, were enough for people who cared to notice that she was Filipino. Now, on day 5, coffee dripped from the edge of the counter while Derek waited for his replacement cup. A woman hurried in from the hallway. Vanessa Cole, the human resources manager, stopped when she saw Maya's wet uniform. What happened? Maya opened her mouth. Derek answered first. She brought coffee that was way too hot. I moved the cup and it spilled. Vanessa looked at him, then at Maya. You need to be more careful around the executive areas. Maya blinked. I was holding the tray when... I'm not saying it was intentional, Vanessa interrupted. I'm saying we have standards. These floors host clients. The sentence landed harder than the coffee. Not because Maya felt humiliated. She could still walk upstairs, open her father's office door, and make every person in the room reconsider the last 5 minutes. What unsettled her was how automatic Vanessa's response had been. She had not asked whether Maya was all right. She had asked whether the floor was protected. Lorna appeared at the lounge entrance carrying a stack of folded cloths. Her eyes widened. Maya, come with me. I need to finish here. No, cold water first. Derek exhaled impatiently. And my coffee? Maya turned toward him. For the first time since starting the assignment, anger rose fast enough that she nearly forgot the agreement with her father. Then she saw Lorna, 56 years old, 15 years at Meridian, hands roughened by work. A woman who had quietly warned Maya on her first morning not to take anyone's sharp tone personally, because, as she put it, some people only remember their manners when someone important enters the room. Lorna could not walk upstairs and reveal a secret. Neither could the dozens of other workers who depended on the job. Maya lowered her voice. I'll make another cup after I cool the burn. Derek gave a satisfied little nod, as if the world had returned to its proper order. Maya followed Lorna into the service hallway. As the lounge door closed behind them, she looked once at the silver Meridian logo reflected in the glass. 5 days ago, she had entered the building believing her father's test was about proving she could work hard. Now she understood it was about something else. The real question was what people did when they believed the person in front of them had no power at all, and Maya had just begun to learn the answer. The redness on Maya's forearm faded by lunchtime, but the moment in the executive lounge stayed with her long after the heat disappeared. Lorna had insisted on walking her to the small employee wellness room on the 2nd floor. The nurse checked Maya's skin, gave her a cool compress, and assured her that the spill had caused only a minor burn. Maya thanked her, changed into a spare shirt from the facilities closet, and returned to work before the end of her break. Lorna was waiting beside the cleaning cart. You should have gone home. I'm fine. That is what every stubborn Filipino says right before doing something even more stubborn. Maya laughed despite herself. My grandmother says almost the same thing. Where is your family from? Cebu. Lorna's face brightened. My sister lives in Mandaue. For the next several minutes, while they changed trash liners and restocked paper towels, their conversation moved easily between California and the Philippines. Lorna had grown up in Bohol and moved to the United States in her 30s. Maya spoke about summers with cousins, crowded family meals, and the way her grandmother still believed every problem could be improved by feeding someone first. It was the most comfortable Maya had felt since putting on the grey uniform. Then Lorna asked, Why are you really here? Maya nearly dropped the roll of liners in her hands. What do you mean? You don't move like someone who has done this job before. That obvious? To me, yes. To them? Lorna nodded toward the offices. They barely look at us long enough to notice. Maya smiled carefully. I needed work. It was not exactly a lie. Lorna studied her for a moment, then let the subject go. Their afternoon assignment took them through several departments. Some employees moved around them politely. Others left half-finished drinks on windowsills or pointed at small messes they could easily have handled themselves. Maya noticed something else. The employees with company badges ate in the bright cafeteria downstairs, where Meridian subsidized lunch. Facilities contractors had a separate break room near the loading area with vending machines and 2 microwaves. "Can we eat upstairs?" Maya asked. Lorna opened a small plastic container of rice and vegetables. "Technically, yes, if someone invites us, but it is easier not to make people uncomfortable." "Why would our eating lunch make anyone uncomfortable?" Lorna gave her a patient look. "You are still new." Maya sat across from her. The break room had no windows. A fluorescent light buzzed overhead. Someone had taped a handwritten sign to one microwave, "Please clean after use." Below it, another person had written, "We clean all day." "Please let us have one thing." Maya stared at the note longer than she meant to. Lorna slid half a banana toward her. "No, thank you. You hardly brought anything." "I'm budgeting," Lorna laughed. "Then you definitely need the banana." Maya accepted it. Her father's rules allowed a modest daily meal allowance, enough to cover basic food if she planned carefully. On the first day, she had spent nearly half of it on coffee and breakfast without thinking. By Thursday, she understood exactly what Gabriel had intended. Small choices became arithmetic: coffee or bus fare, buying lunch or bringing leftovers, replacing a worn pair of work gloves now or waiting until payday. Those decisions did not threaten Maya's actual future. The assignment could end whenever she chose. That made the exercise imperfect and made her uncomfortable watching people for whom those choices were real. After their break, Lorna showed Maya a payroll notice posted near the time clock. "New attendance policy," Lorna said. The notice announced automatic reductions in quarterly performance bonuses for repeated late clock-ins, even when an employee had manager approval for a schedule adjustment. Maya frowned. "That wording is terrible. It gets worse when the system marks you late because the scanner freezes." "Does that happen?" "Twice last month." "Did you report it?" "To whom?" "HR." Lorna smiled without humor. "Vanessa wrote the policy." Maya took out her phone, then remembered she was supposed to behave like a normal facilities employee, not an auditor. She put it away. That evening, after her shift, she took the bus 2 stops instead of calling the car Gabriel had made available, only for emergencies. She got off near a quiet commercial street, walked behind a row of restaurants, and entered a small, family-owned bakery. Gabriel was already seated in the back corner, wearing a baseball cap that looked ridiculous on him. Maya stopped beside the table. "You look like a man trying very hard not to look like a CEO." "I was told the cap makes me approachable." "It makes you look guilty." He smiled and pushed a plate toward her. "Eat." She sat down. "That violates the allowance rule." "Consider it a father-daughter dinner." Maya realized how hungry she was after the first bite. Gabriel watched her. "So?" "So what?" "You have lasted 5 days. You say that like there was a company pool." "There may have been." She gave him a look. Then her expression changed. "One of your directors spilled coffee on me today." Gabriel's fork stopped. "Who?" "Derek Caldwell." "Are you hurt?" "Minor burn. The nurse checked it." Gabriel's jaw tightened. "I can deal with him tomorrow." "No." The answer surprised both of them. Maya leaned back. "Vanessa came in afterward. She barely asked what happened. She warned me about being careful around executive areas." Gabriel said nothing. "I thought the problem would be a few rude people," Maya continued. "But Lorna showed me an attendance policy that punishes people when the time system malfunctions. Contractors eat in a windowless room while everyone else gets subsidized meals. People don't even notice how they speak to the cleaning staff. Now you see why I sent you. I see pieces. That is enough for 1 week." Maya shook her head. "No, it isn't." Gabriel studied his daughter across the table. "When you first came home after graduate school, you told me Meridian needed faster leadership decisions. It does. You said too many managers spent time listening to complaints that should be handled lower down." Maya remembered the conversation. "I was talking about efficiency." "I know. I am saying the idea was incomplete." He folded his hands. "A company can be efficient and still fail its people. A leader can be kind and still avoid difficult decisions. You will need to understand both." Maya looked through the bakery window at people moving along the sidewalk. What if I find things you don't want to know? Gabriel's answer came without hesitation. Then I need to know them most. The next morning, Maya arrived 20 minutes early. Lorna was already there, struggling with a cart whose front wheel pulled sharply to the left. Maya grabbed the other side. This thing should have been replaced years ago. We have requested it twice. Then we'll request it again. Lorna raised an eyebrow. You say that like you expect someone to listen. Maya smiled. Maybe they will eventually. For the rest of the morning, she watched more carefully. Not for villains, for patterns. Who was interrupted and who was heard. Who apologized when they made a mess and who simply walked away. Which managers knew the names of the people cleaning their offices. Which policies sounded reasonable on paper but became unfair in practice. By noon, Maya had stopped thinking of the assignment as a test her father had forced on her. It was becoming a responsibility she had chosen for herself. And that difference changed everything. On Monday, a new rotation schedule sent Maya away from Lorna and onto the 14th floor, where Meridian's customer accounts and regional sales teams occupied two long wings of glass offices. She discovered quickly that a different floor could feel like a different company. At 7:10 in the morning, a young analyst named Claire Bennett stepped aside so Maya could move her cart through a narrow doorway. Sorry, Claire said. We keep stacking boxes in the worst place. You're the first person to apologize to me for a box. Claire smiled. Low bar. She helped move 2 cartons without being asked. 10 minutes later, Derek Caldwell walked through the same doorway, saw Maya polishing the conference table, and checked his watch. You're still here? The schedule changed. I thought facilities rotated afternoon. Not today. Derek looked mildly annoyed, as if her continued existence on his floor had disrupted a plan. Well, stay out of Conference B from 10 to 12. Client call. I have it listed for cleaning at 11. Then your list is wrong. Maya glanced at the tablet mounted to her cart. Facilities received the schedule from your department. Derek leaned closer to the screen, then shrugged. Fix it. He walked away. Maya watched him for a moment, then changed the task order herself. A week earlier, she would have labeled him arrogant and moved on. Now she was trying to understand how arrogance became culture. The answer, she was beginning to realize, was repetition. One person acted carelessly. No one challenged it. Someone else learned that carelessness had no consequence. A junior employee copied a manager copied a director. Eventually, behavior became expectation. By mid-morning, Maya had seen 3 small examples. A supervisor corrected an assistant loudly in front of co-workers rather than speaking privately. An employee complained that facilities had not emptied a bin even though she had placed it inside a locked office after cleaning hours. A team lead told a temporary worker, "You're lucky to be here," when he asked how long his assignment would last. None of it was dramatic. That was what bothered Maya. People did not need dramatic cruelty to make a workplace feel small. Sometimes all it took was 100 tiny reminders about who mattered and who did not. During lunch, she found Claire in the hallway carrying a folder and a salad. "Do you know where Vanessa is?" Claire asked. "HR manager Vanessa?" "Unfortunately, yes." Maya noticed the word unfortunately but did not react. 12th floor this morning, Claire sighed. "Of course. Problem?" Claire hesitated. "Nothing important." Maya smiled. "That usually means it is important." Claire looked down the hallway to make sure no one was nearby. "I submitted a review request for a contractor last month. Her schedule record showed 3 late arrivals, but 2 were approved changes and 1 happened because the badge scanner failed. The attendance bonus policy." Claire looked surprised. "You know about that?" "It is posted by our time clock." "Right. Anyway, I asked HR operations to correct it before her evaluation. The request was closed without an explanation. Did you ask Vanessa?" "I did." "And?" "She said we can't make exceptions every time an employee dislikes a system result." "That isn't an exception if the result is wrong." Claire's eyes sharpened. "Exactly." For a moment, Maya forgot she was supposed to know less than she did. Claire seemed to notice. You sound like HR. Please don't insult me. Claire laughed, then immediately covered her mouth. That was terrible. It was honest. They parted before anyone else came through the hall. At 1:30, Vanessa appeared on the floor. She carried herself with practiced efficiency, tablet in one hand, heels precise against the tile, expression neutral enough to seem professional even when her words were not. She stopped beside Maya's cart. Santos. Yes, Miss Cole. I received a note that you changed the cleaning schedule for Conference B. Mr. Caldwell told me the room was being used during the assigned time. You are not authorized to alter schedules. Maya blinked. I adjusted the task order so I wouldn't interrupt his client meeting. You contact a supervisor. You don't make operational decisions yourself. It moved one room by 40 minutes. Vanessa's expression cooled. Is there a reason you're arguing? Maya felt the old version of herself rise immediately. The woman who could dismantle a bad policy in a boardroom without changing her tone, the woman who hated being spoken to as if she were incapable. She almost responded. Then she remembered why she was there. No, ma'am. Vanessa tapped something on her tablet. I'm documenting a coaching note, not a formal warning. Just follow the chain of command. She walked away. Maya stared after her. The incident was small. In another life, she might even have defended the principal. Large companies needed procedures. Employees could not simply rewrite schedules whenever they wanted. But the issue was not the rule. It was the absence of judgment. No one had asked whether Maya's decision had caused a problem. No one had asked whether the approved process would have made her interrupt an important client call. Procedure had become more important than outcome because procedure was easier to measure. At the end of the shift, Maya went to the facilities office and asked to see her time record. The supervisor, a tired man named Eddie Morales, pulled it up. You're good, he said. Maya studied the screen. Why does Friday show 7:04? That's when you clocked in. I was here at 6:48. The scanner rejected my badge twice. Eddie shrugged apologetically. System only counts the successful scan. Can you correct it? I can submit a manual adjustment. How long does that take? Depends. On what? HR approval. Maya almost laughed. Instead, she asked, how often does this happen? Eddie looked at her. With the scanners? Yes. Often enough. And people lose bonus credit because of it? Sometimes. Why hasn't the system been replaced? We put in a request. When? Before I transferred here. How long ago was that? 18 months. Maya went quiet. That evening she bought a cheap notebook from a pharmacy near the bus stop. She did not write names on the cover. She did not call it an investigation. On the first page she wrote one sentence, things that looked small from upstairs. Below it she listed the cartwheel that had not been replaced, the badge scanner, the contractor lunchroom, Claire's correction request, Vanessa's coaching note, the way Derek spoke to temporary staff. The fact that the nurse had been kind while no one in the lounge had asked if Maya needed help. Then she drew 2 columns, policy, practice. She filled 3 pages before the bus reached her stop. The next morning, Derek was waiting near the elevators when Maya arrived. You again. Good morning. He held out an empty paper cup. She looked at it. The trash can was beside him. Derek raised his eyebrows. Maya took the cup. Not because he deserved obedience. Because she was learning that control was not the same thing as surrender. She dropped it into the bin, pushed her cart toward the hallway and kept walking. Behind her, Derek called, Coffee at 9. Maya did not turn around. She simply opened her notebook when she reached the supply room and added another line. People reveal themselves fastest when they think no one important is watching. By the middle of the second week, Maya had learned the rhythm of Meridian from the hours before the office fully woke. At 6:30, the building belonged to people most employees rarely saw. Security guards traded overnight notes at the front desk. Facilities workers rolled carts out of storage rooms. Maintenance crews checked lights, air vents, and doors. Delivery drivers brought boxes through the service entrance. The polished headquarters that appeared effortless by 9 each morning was rebuilt quietly before sunrise, by people whose names never appeared in shareholder presentations. Maya had begun to know many of them. Eddie liked old baseball statistics and kept peppermints in his desk. June, one of the receptionists, was studying at night for a certification in project management. A maintenance technician named Oscar could diagnose a broken copier by sound. Lorna carried extra crackers because someone was always forgetting breakfast. They were not a labor category anymore. They were people. That realization embarrassed Maya more than she admitted. She had always considered herself respectful. She said, "Thank you." She remembered birthdays. She supported generous employee benefits in strategy discussions, but she had known workers mostly as groups, facilities, support staff, contractors, head count. Now those words had faces. One Tuesday morning, Maya found Lorna in the break room staring at her phone. "Everything okay?" Lorna quickly locked the screen. "Yes." "You don't look okay." "My daughter called from Nevada. She wants me to come for her son's school program next month." "That sounds nice." "It is on a Friday." Maya waited. "I already used 2 personal days this year," Lorna explained. "If I request another Friday, Vanessa's system may flag me for reliability review." "You're allowed personal days." Allowed and encouraged are different things. Maya sat beside her. "Have you ever been written up for missing work?" "No." "Then why would one approved day be a problem?" Lorna smiled softly. "You ask questions like someone who still thinks rules mean the same thing to everyone." The sentence stayed with Maya all morning. Later, while cleaning a small meeting room, she heard 2 managers talking outside the open door. "Vanessa wants the turnover report cleaned up before the leadership review." "How do you clean up turnover?" "Reclassify some exits as assignment completions." "That is technically accurate for contractors." "Exactly." The men walked away. Maya paused with the cloth in her hand. Nothing she had heard was necessarily dishonest. Contractors did complete assignments. Reports often required categories, but she was beginning to recognize a habit inside Meridian. Whenever a number created discomfort, people adjusted the language before asking what the number meant. That afternoon, Claire found her by the supply closet. "I owe you an apology." "For what?" "You asked about the badge correction. I checked. There are 23 unresolved manual time adjustments from the last 2 months. Maya kept her expression neutral. "That seems like a lot." "It is." "Why are you telling me?" Claire lowered her voice. "Because I said your case wasn't important." "It is. The cases are small individually, but the pattern isn't." Maya felt a flicker of admiration. "What are you going to do?" "I reopened the queue." "Vanessa approved that?" Claire gave her a look. "So, no. I'm allowed to review pending requests." "Good." Claire hesitated. "You know, for a custodian, you ask unusually specific questions." Maya smiled. "For an analyst, you notice unusually specific custodians." "Fair." That evening, Maya and Lorna stayed late to clean after a company town hall. Hundreds of employees had filled the auditorium. By 7, only cups, programs, and forgotten name tags remained. Lorna worked slowly, pressing one hand against her lower back every few minutes. "You should sit down," Maya said, "and let you finish this alone?" "Yes? No?" "Tita Lorna." Lorna stopped. It was the first time Maya had used the Filipino term naturally with her. Something softened in Lorna's face. "You really are from Cebu," she said. "I told you. You also told me you came here because you needed work. I am less sure about that part every day." Maya looked down at the trash bag in her hands. She wanted to tell her. The urge had grown stronger as their friendship deepened. Every time Lorna shared food, advice, or some small worry about family, Maya felt the weight of what she was hiding. But revealing the truth to one person could undo the assignment for everyone. "I needed something," Maya said carefully. "Maybe not only work." Lorna nodded as though that answer made more sense. "My mother used to say people sometimes take a long road because the short road doesn't teach them anything." My mother would have liked yours. Most Filipino mothers would form a committee within 10 minutes. They both laughed. A shadow moved at the auditorium entrance. Derek stood there holding his phone. "You two having a party?" "We're finishing the cleanup," Maya said. "Then finish. Some of us are still working." He disappeared down the hall. Lorna shook her head. That man acts like being busy is a personality. Maya smiled, but her eyes followed the empty hallway. Has he always been like that? Worse when he first became director. Better when Mr. Navarro is around. Of course. Everyone becomes better when the CEO is around. Maya tied the trash bag. That might be the problem. The next day, she began asking a different kind of question. Not who behaved badly. What made good behavior easier and bad behavior safer? The answers were everywhere. Performance reviews for managers measured revenue, deadlines, and productivity, but contained only one vague line about team culture. Contract workers had no regular forum with department leaders. Facilities requests were routed through 3 separate approval systems depending on cost. HR feedback forms went to the same department employees were sometimes evaluating. Cameras in 2 older service corridors had intermittent recording gaps, not because anyone was secretly turning them off, but because replacement equipment had been delayed through multiple budget cycles. Maya's notebook filled quickly. The story becoming visible was less sensational than she had expected, and somehow more troubling. Meridian did not have one hidden mastermind making the company unfair. It had hundreds of small decisions that had taught people which problems could wait. A broken cart could wait. A missing time correction could wait. A custodian eating in a windowless room could wait. A manager, speaking disrespectfully, could wait if his sales numbers were strong. By Thursday night, Maya sat alone at a bus stop under the orange glow of a street lamp and reread her notes. Her phone buzzed. "Dad, dinner tomorrow?" she typed back. "Not yet. I'm still learning." A second message appeared. "Gabriel, you sound different." Maya looked through the glass shelter at the Meridian Tower glowing several blocks away. She thought about Lorna giving up a family event because requesting a personal day felt risky. Claire reopening 23 forgotten corrections. Eddie pushing a bad cart request through a system that had ignored him for more than a year. Then she typed, "Maya, I think I was different. I just couldn't see it from upstairs." She put the phone away as the bus arrived. For the first time since the assignment began, she was no longer counting the days until it ended. She was wondering whether 30 days would be enough. The announcement reached every floor at 9:17 on Friday morning. Gabriel Navarro was coming downstairs. Not to the executive conference center, not to a scheduled board session. He was conducting an unscheduled walkthrough of the main Irvine building, beginning with customer operations and moving through sales, human resources, facilities, and the employee common areas. Within 3 minutes, Meridian changed personality. Managers stepped into hallways, employees cleared cups from desks, and a supervisor who had never spoken to Maya by name suddenly greeted her like an old friend. Maya nearly laughed. Lorna leaned toward her. "See? Miracle Day." "What miracle?" "Everyone suddenly discovers manners." They were on the 12th floor when Derek appeared from the sales wing. His expression was tight. "You two need to move the cart." "It's against the wall," Maya said. "Move it to the service room." "We're still using it. The CEO is coming through." "So?" Derek stared at her. "So we don't need cleaning equipment sitting in the middle of a client-facing floor." "It isn't in the middle." "Maya," Lorna murmured. Derek lowered his voice. "Just do it, and maybe take your break while he's here." Maya understood immediately. "You don't want him seeing us." "I don't want him seeing clutter." "We are not clutter." Derek seemed unsure how to answer. Then footsteps sounded near the elevators. The entire floor straightened. Gabriel emerged with 2 executives and his chief of staff, June Park. He wore a navy suit and the calm expression Maya had seen in 1,000 photographs. To anyone else, he looked completely at home. To Maya, he looked like her father, pretending not to know his own daughter. His eyes moved across the floor. They passed over Derek. Vanessa stepped forward with a professional smile. "Mr. Navarro, welcome. We weren't expecting you today." That is usually the point of an unscheduled visit. A few people laughed too quickly. Maya pushed the cart toward the service room before Gabriel could look directly at her. She did not know whether she was protecting the assignment or herself. Lorna followed, Inside the small room, she whispered, "You would think royalty walked in." Maya busied herself arranging bottles. "He is just a CEO." Lorna stared at her. "Just a CEO? You really are new." Through the partially open door, they heard Gabriel ask what slowed teams down and what employees would change. The answers were careful: better software, faster approvals, more meeting space. No one mentioned the broken time scanner, contractors worrying about personal days, or the separate break room. Maya felt the paradox immediately. Her father wanted honesty, but his title changed the room before he entered it. People became cautious around power, even when that power wanted the truth. After 20 minutes, Gabriel moved on. Derek opened the service room door almost immediately. "See? Easy." Maya looked at him. What was easy? Keeping things presentable. Lorna stepped between them with the cart. "We have work to do." Derek walked away. Maya waited until the afternoon before sending June a short message from the private phone Gabriel had given her for emergencies. Stairwell C, 410. Gabriel arrived alone. The concrete stairwell was cool and quiet, far from the glass offices above. Maya stood with her arms folded. "You looked very impressive today," she said. "I sensed criticism. You asked everyone what they would change." "I did." "They lied to you." Gabriel leaned against the railing. "All of them." "Not exactly. They gave you safe truths." "And what are the unsafe ones?" Maya pulled the small notebook from her pocket. She told him about the scanner corrections, delayed equipment requests, the contractor break room, Lorna's fear of using a personal day, Claire's reopened cases, and the way managers changed behavior the instant he appeared. Gabriel listened without interrupting. When Maya finished, he held out his hand for the notebook. She did not give it to him. "Not yet." One eyebrow lifted. "I want to understand the patterns before you start fixing individual problems. I can replace a scanner without destroying your experiment." "You can. And then everyone will know someone important noticed it." "Someone important did notice it." "That is exactly the point." Gabriel studied her. Maya continued. "If every problem gets solved only when you personally see it, you don't have a healthy company. You have a company waiting for the king to walk through the village." Gabriel's mouth twitched. "King?" "Lorna's influence." He became serious again. "What do you want to do?" "I want another week before we change anything major. You are halfway through the assignment." "I know." "And Derek?" Maya glanced at her wrist. "He is part of the problem. I don't think he is the whole problem." Gabriel nodded slowly. "Your mother would be proud of that answer." Maya looked away. "Don't use Mom to win arguments." Gabriel smiled and left through the lower stairwell door. Maya waited 3 minutes before returning to the floor. Near 5 o'clock, a temporary employee named Ben struggled to carry presentation boards into Conference B. 2 slipped and scattered across the hallway. Derek came around the corner at exactly the wrong moment. "What is this?" "Sorry, sir," Ben said, crouching quickly. The bottom board slid. "We have clients in 10 minutes. I'll have it cleared in 1. You temps act like this is a school project." Ben's face reddened. Maya was 20 feet away with her cart. She watched 3 employees pass without stopping. Then she remembered the executive lounge, the coffee, the silence. She walked over and began picking up boards. Derek looked at her. "I didn't ask you." "No, he needed help." Ben whispered, "Thank you." Derek exhaled sharply. "Facilities is not supposed to interfere with department work." "I'm picking up cardboard." "You always have an answer." Maya stood. "No. Sometimes I just have hands." The hallway went quiet. Vanessa appeared from a nearby office. "What is happening?" Derek gave a humorless laugh. "Your custodian is challenging directions again." Vanessa turned to Maya. "We already discussed chain of command." Ben dropped presentation boards. "I helped him." "That isn't the issue." "What is the issue?" "The issue is repeated resistance to supervisor instructions." Vanessa opened her tablet. "I'm converting the previous coaching note into a formal warning." Lorna had arrived at the end of the hall. Claire stood behind the glass door of an office watching. Maya could identify herself or call Gabriel and end the misunderstanding instantly. Instead, she looked at Ben, still holding 2 boards against his chest. "Do I need to sign something?" she asked. Vanessa seemed almost disappointed by the calm response. "I'll send it to facilities." "Okay." Maya returned to her cart. After her shift, she sat alone in the nearly empty bus and opened the private phone. Her father had sent one message. "Gabriel, still want another week?" Maya looked at the formal warning notification, now sitting in her work email. Then she thought of how quickly everyone had changed when Gabriel walked onto the floor that morning. She typed back, "Maya, no." 3 dots appeared almost immediately. Before he could answer, she sent another message. "Maya, I want the full 30 days. Don't shorten it. Don't rescue me. And don't fix this from upstairs yet." She paused, then added one final line. "Maya, I finally understand what I'm looking for." Outside the window, the Meridian Tower slipped behind the trees. Maya had once imagined that proving herself meant showing she could lead. Now she understood the harder lesson. Before anyone should lead, they had to learn how to see the people no one else was looking at. Monday began before sunrise, with the kind of marine layer grey that made Irvine look quieter than it was. Maya stepped off the bus 2 blocks from Meridian and walked the rest of the way with her badge tucked against her jacket. She had spent most of the weekend thinking about the formal warning in her work email. By Sunday night, the anger had cooled into something more useful. She was not going to collect humiliations. She was going to collect patterns. At 6:42, Lorna was already in the service room counting microfiber cloths. "You came back," Lorna said. "Were you expecting me to disappear?" "After Friday, a little." Maya smiled. "I am more stubborn than I look." That part I already knew. They began on the 10th floor, where an all-hands meeting from the previous evening had left paper cups, catering boxes and crooked chairs across 2 conference rooms. Maya worked without rushing. She had learned that rushing made the job harder later. She stacked chairs first, separated trash from recyclable containers, wiped tables from one end to the other, and listened. That was the other thing she had learned. Offices were loud even when people whispered. 2 coordinators entered the room arguing about a time correction. "I submitted it Thursday," one said. "It still shows me as late." "Email Claire." "I did. She said local HR has to approve it." Maya kept wiping the table. By 8, she had heard 3 similar conversations. At 9:15, Claire Bennett appeared beside the supply closet, holding a tablet and looking as though she had rehearsed what she was going to say. "Do you have a minute?" Maya glanced toward Lorna. "Go," Lorna said. "I can survive without you for 60 seconds. Claire led Maya to a small copy room. "I reopened those correction cases we talked about," she said. 23 of them. "And?" 9 were simple mistakes. People forgot to clock in. Managers entered the wrong code. Things like that. But 14 were submitted correctly by employees, and then sat waiting for local approval, some for weeks. "Who approves them?" Claire hesitated. "Usually Vanessa, or someone she delegates to." Maya did not react. Claire continued quickly. "I am not saying she did anything intentionally. The system is messy, but when corrections sit open, hourly employees can end up with short pay until the next cycle. It gets fixed eventually. Usually. Usually is a dangerous word when rent is due on a specific day." Claire looked down at the tablet. "Exactly." Maya asked whether there was a report showing how long corrections stayed unresolved. Claire said there was, but no one reviewed it unless a department had a major payroll error. "Can you review it?" "I can." "Then do that. Do not send me anything confidential. Just tell me what the process looks like." Claire gave her a strange look. "You think like HR? Maybe HR should think more like hourly employees." Claire almost smiled. The rest of the morning gave Maya more examples. A broken vacuum had been waiting 6 weeks for replacement because facilities' requests below a certain dollar amount were grouped for monthly review. A cleaner named Oscar had been using his own knee brace because the lightweight kneeling pads listed in the safety catalogue had never been ordered. A pantry refrigerator on the executive floor had been replaced within 48 hours. None of it was dramatic. That was what bothered her. No single decision looked outrageous on paper. Every delay had an explanation. every inconvenience could be called minor. But the minor things seemed to travel downhill until they reached the people with the least time, the least money, and the smallest voice. At lunch, Maya and Lorna sat in the contractor break room with 2 plastic containers between them. Lorna had brought chicken adobo and rice. "You made this?" Maya asked. "My daughter did. She says mine is too salty." Maya took 1 bite and closed her eyes. "This tastes like my grandmother's kitchen." "That good?" "That dangerous. Now I'm going to miss Cebu all afternoon." Lorna laughed and pushed more food toward her. Maya noticed a folded envelope sticking from Lorna's bag. "Bills?" Lorna followed her eyes. "School forms. My youngest grandson is starting a training program. He needs help with the fees." "I thought your children were grown." "They are. Then they give you grandchildren, and somehow the expenses become yours again. Family is creative that way." Maya smiled, but her attention shifted when Lorna mentioned she had picked up 2 additional evening shifts that week. "You already work full-time. The extra hours help. Do they pay overtime?" "They should." Maya waited. Lorna shrugged. "Usually." There was that word again. After lunch, Derek stopped Maya outside a meeting room. "Conference A needs to be reset by 3. It is on the schedule for 4. Now it is 3. "Okay. For which task should I move?" He frowned. "What?" "I have the West restrooms at 2:30 and Conference C at 3. If A moved up, one of those moves back." "Which one?" Derek looked at her as if the question itself were resistance. "Figure it out." Maya took out the small notepad she had started carrying openly for task lists. "I can figure it out, but then if another department asks why their room was late, I need to tell them what took priority." For a moment, Derek said nothing. "Move Conference C," he finally said. "Got it." Maya wrote it down. The exchange lasted less than a minute, but it felt different from Friday. She had not challenged him. She had simply required him to own the choice he was making. By the end of the shift, Maya had filled 4 pages with dates, request numbers, names, and questions. She avoided judgments. She wrote what happened, who had authority, how long something waited, and who carried the inconvenience. At 5:20, Claire found her again near the elevators. "I checked something else," she said quietly. "What?" "Employee relations cases, not the payroll ones." Maya lowered her voice. "Claire, be careful. I was doing my job. You just made me look at it differently." She explained that Meridian tracked formal complaints, coaching conversations, and informal resolutions. On paper, Derek had very few complaints. That was one reason senior leadership considered him a strong people manager. But Claire had searched his department by employee name instead of manager name. "There are more," she said. "A lot more. They are logged as general workplace concerns. Most end with the same note. Addressed verbally, no further action requested." "Did the employees say they wanted no further action?" "That is the problem. I cannot tell." Maya felt the hallway noise recede. "Who closed them?" Claire did not answer immediately. She did not need to. Maya looked through the glass wall toward Vanessa's office. Vanessa was laughing with Derek over something on his phone. Maya thought about the coffee, the warning, the forgotten corrections, and the phrase "no further action requested." For the first time, the pieces did not feel random. They felt organized by convenience. And convenience, Maya was beginning to understand, could become a culture all by itself. The next morning, Maya's assignment changed. A facilities supervisor named Eddie Ruiz handed her a printed rotation sheet at 6:55 and tapped the lower half with a pen. "You are with operations today and tomorrow. Floors 6 through 9. Maya looked up. "Did I do something wrong?" "No." Corporate asked facilities to rotate coverage more often. They want cross-training. Her father's idea, she guessed, though he had kept his promise not to fix the problems she had already identified. A rotation did not solve anything. It simply widened her view. "Any complaints?" Eddie asked. "None." "Good. 9 has the worst coffee stains in the building. I think they throw cups for sport." On the 7th floor, Maya met Jamal Price, a shipping coordinator who had worked at Meridian for 8 years. He held the elevator while she pushed in her cart. "You are the new one from 12, right?" "Maya." "Jamal, welcome to the normal floors." "What makes them normal?" "Nobody has a private espresso machine." He said it with such seriousness that Maya laughed. Operations felt different from sales. People wore practical shoes. Boxes moved through corridors. Printers ran constantly. Employees were busy, but they generally looked at Maya when they spoke to her. By 10, she had received 3 thank yous and 1 apology from someone who accidentally stepped across a freshly mopped section. It should have made her feel better. Instead, it made the contrast sharper. At a small break area, she saw a poster announcing Meridian's annual employee experience survey. Bold letters promised, "Every voice builds our future." Maya stared at it long enough that Jamal noticed. "You filling that out?" "Can I?" He laughed. "Probably not." "Why not?" "Contractors don't get the survey." Maya read the poster again. Every voice. Every voice with a Meridian payroll number. She found Eddie 20 minutes later. "Do facilities contractors receive the employee survey?" "No. Vendor staff has a separate process." "What process?" Eddie thought for a moment. "I think the vendor manager sends something once a year. Have you seen the results?" "No." "Does Meridian?" "Maybe procurement." Maya wrote it down. That afternoon, she used her break to call her grandmother in Cebu. The video froze twice before the connection settled. Her grandmother appeared close to the camera, wearing reading glasses she insisted she did not need. "You look tired," Lola Elena said. "Hello to you too." "I am your grandmother. I can begin with criticism." "It is my right." Maya smiled. "I am working a lot." "For your father?" "Sort of." Gabriel had told Elena about the 30-day assignment, which meant Maya had one fewer person she could impress with secrecy. "Are they kind to you?" Elena asked. Maya hesitated. "Some are." Her grandmother's expression changed. "And the others?" "They are teaching me." "That is not what I asked." Maya looked through the break room window at rows of parked cars and the flat California sky. "I used to think Dad was too cautious," she said. "I thought if the company had policies, benefits, surveys, and an HR department, then people had ways to be heard. And now? Now I think a door can be open on paper and still feel locked to the person standing in front of it." Elena was quiet. Then she said, "Your mother used to say you could tell what kind of house you entered by how people spoke to the person serving the food." Maya swallowed. "I remember." "Then remember this too. Do not become angry just because you finally see something ugly. Anger notices. Wisdom decides what to do next." After the call, Maya sat alone for a minute longer than her break allowed. Her mother's voice had become harder to remember over the years. Sometimes a phrase from her grandmother brought it back so clearly that Maya could almost hear it. She returned to work with a steadier mind. Before leaving the break room, she opened the notes on her phone and added one more question. Who is missing from the numbers? It was simple enough to fit on one line, yet the longer she looked at it, the larger it became. Contractors were missing from surveys. Quiet employees disappeared inside closed cases. Small corrections vanished inside monthly totals. A company could measure almost everything, and still fail to measure the people standing nearest to the work. Near 4, Vanessa appeared on the 7th floor. "There you are." Maya straightened from a supply cabinet. "Ma'am." "I heard you have been asking questions about surveys." The speed of the information surprised her. "I saw the poster." "The employee survey is for employees. Contractors have their own channels. Do we know whether those channels work?" Vanessa's polite expression tightened. "That is a procurement matter. I was only curious." "Curiosity is fine. Just remember, you were hired for facilities support." Maya nodded. "Of course." Vanessa left, heels clicking against the polished floor. Jamal watched from a nearby desk. "You collect important friends," he said. "Apparently." At 5, Claire sent Maya a message through the internal chat system. "Can you meet by the West vending machines?" Maya found her there holding 2 cans of sparkling water. "Peace offering," Claire said. "For what?" "For making your week more complicated." They sat at a small table near the window. Claire had gone deeper into the employee relations system. She did not show Maya names or private details, only counts she had written on a legal pad. In the last 18 months, Derek's department had 31 general workplace concerns. Only 4 were categorized under him as manager-related. How many were closed by Vanessa? 26. Maya exhaled slowly. Could that be normal? It could be. She is the local HR manager, but the wording is almost identical on many of them, resolved through discussion. Expectations clarified. No further escalation required. And did anyone follow up with the person who raised the concern? Sometimes. Not consistently. Maya looked at the page but did not touch it. "Why are you telling me this?" Claire's answer took time. "Because I have worked here 3 years, and I kept assuming that if something was closed, someone more experienced than me had handled it." "Then you asked one question. How do we know?" Maya waited. "I did not know," Claire said. That bothered me. Before Maya could respond, June Park walked through the corridor with 2 members of Gabriel's strategy team. Maya instinctively turned her face toward the window. Claire noticed. "Do you know June?" "No." It came out too fast. Claire's eyes narrowed slightly, but she did not press. A minute later, Maya's private phone vibrated inside her pocket. "Gabriel. How is the rotation?" Maya did not open the message. Across the table, Claire was still watching her. For the first time since the assignment began, Maya realized the danger was no longer only that someone might mistreat her. Someone might start paying attention. By Wednesday, Maya had developed 2 routines. The first was practical. Arrive early enough to check the day's assignments, keep gloves in her left pocket, carry spare liners in the lower cart drawer, and never assume a conference room was empty simply because the lights were off. The second was invisible. She listened for the distance between policy and reality. That morning, the distance had Lorna's name on it. Maya returned to the 12th floor at 10:30 to help with a large client event and found Lorna standing beside the service elevator, staring at her phone. "Everything okay?" Lorna forced a smile. "Of course." "That means no." Lorna sighed. Her daughter had called. One of Lorna's grandchildren had an important orientation that afternoon, and the family member who planned to take him had been delayed at work. Lorna wanted to leave 2 hours early. "Then leave," Maya said. "I cannot just leave." "You have personal time. I have hours on the system. That does not mean I use them whenever I want." Maya remembered their earlier conversation. "Why not ask?" "Because I asked last month to change a Friday shift. They approved it, but after that I got 3 weekends in a row. Maybe coincidence, maybe not. I do not need another coincidence." Maya felt the familiar heat of frustration, but her grandmother's words returned to her. "Anger notices. Wisdom decides." "Who approves your schedule?" "Eddie, usually. Sometimes Vanessa if it affects client coverage." "Ask Eddie. Just ask." Lorna shook her head. "If he says no, you are exactly where you are now. And if he says yes, then your grandson gets you at orientation." Lorna studied her, then called Eddie. He approved the request in less than a minute. Maya waited until the call ended. "That was terrible," she said solemnly. Lorna stared at her. "The begging, the dramatic music, the committee review." Lorna laughed so loudly that a man passing the hallway looked over, but her smile faded quickly. "Maybe I made it bigger in my head." "Maybe, or maybe enough small experiences taught you to expect the worst. Both can be true." At noon, Maya carried extra chairs into the client dining room. Derek was supervising the setup with the intensity of someone launching a spacecraft. "Those tables need to move 6 inches left." A coordinator measured them with her eyes. "They are aligned with the floor plan." "I said 6 inches." The coordinator moved them. Derek turned and saw Maya. "You." We need the glass walls cleaned again. They were done at 9. There are fingerprints. Maya checked. There were 2 faint marks near the door. I can spot clean them. Do the whole wall. That will take about 40 minutes. And the facilities team starts lunch in 10. Take lunch later. Maya glanced at the schedule clipped to her cart. Our event coverage begins at 1. If we move lunch, someone needs to cover the lobby at 1:30. Derek's expression hardened. Why does every instruction become a negotiation with you? It is not a negotiation. I am asking what you want prioritized. Before he could respond, another voice joined them. She's right. A woman in a charcoal blazer stood near the doorway. Maya recognized her from company photographs. Nina Patel, Vice President of Operations. Derek changed instantly. Nina, I did not see you there. Clearly. Nina looked at the glass. Spot clean the fingerprints. The wall is fine. Of course. Maya reached for her cloth. Nina watched her for a moment. What is your name? Maya Santos. You know the coverage schedule? I work from it. Good. More people should. She walked away. Derek waited until she was gone. Do not mistake that for permission to argue with me. Maya kept her tone even. I did not. He left without another word. At lunch, Claire joined Maya in the contractor break room for the first time. She stood in the doorway, looking at the old refrigerator, 4 mismatched chairs, and vending machine humming in the corner. This is your break room? Welcome to luxury. Claire set down her lunch bag slowly. I thought contractors used the cafeteria. We can buy food there. We just do not get the meal credit employees get. Claire looked embarrassed, though she had not created the policy. I never knew. Neither did I. The sentence carried more truth than Claire understood. They ate together. Claire explained that she had checked Meridian's people metrics. Leadership received monthly dashboards showing turnover, engagement, complaint volume, absenteeism, and manager effectiveness. Complaint volume is considered better when it is low, Claire said. Maya stopped chewing. Better? Not officially. No one says fewer complaints always means healthier teams, but departments with high complaint counts get questions. Managers notice. So a manager has an incentive to keep complaints from becoming complaints. Claire nodded reluctantly. That is one interpretation. It is a pretty obvious interpretation. I know. Maya looked around the small room. A poster on the wall reminded workers to speak up early. She almost laughed at the irony. That afternoon, she found Nina Patel again near the operations elevators. Nina was carrying a laptop and talking into an earpiece. She ended the call and pointed at Maya's cart. Is that the broken wheel everyone complains about? One of them. How long? More than a year, according to Eddie. Nina crouched briefly and tested the wheel. Why has it not been replaced? The request keeps being deferred. By whom? Maya chose her words carefully. I do not know. Nina stood. Send me the request number. Maya hesitated. Is that a problem? No, I just do not want it fixed only because a vice president happened to touch it. Nina's expression changed. What do you mean? Maya realized she had said too much. There are other carts, she said. If one gets replaced and the process stays the same, the next one may wait another year. Nina studied her for several seconds. You really are not what I expected from facilities. What did you expect? Nina smiled faintly. Someone who would give me the request number and walk away. She handed Maya a business card. If you see a process problem, email me. Not a complaint. A process problem. Maya took the card. As Nina left, Maya felt the old instinct rise. Tell her everything. Tell her who you are. Recruit someone powerful. Instead, she put the card in her pocket. Later, Lorna returned from her grandson's orientation with a paper name tag still stuck to her sweater. He starts next month, she announced proudly. See, asking did not end the world. Do not become unbearable about this. Too late. Lorna hugged her before either woman thought about it. For Maya, the gesture changed the day. She had entered Meridian believing leadership was about making decisions for people. Now she was beginning to see that sometimes leadership meant creating enough safety for people to make ordinary decisions for themselves. The basement storage level had no windows, weak cell service, and a fluorescent light near the supply cages that flickered every 11 seconds. Maya knew, because by Thursday afternoon she had counted it 93 times. Vanessa had reassigned her there after a brief conversation that morning. "Facilities needs inventory support," Vanessa said. "You have been moving around a lot. This will give you a simpler assignment." Maya recognized the message beneath the words. "Stop asking questions." She did not challenge it. The basement was not punishment in any official sense. Someone had to count paper products, verify cleaning chemicals, label shelves, and compare deliveries against order sheets. So Maya accepted the clipboard from Eddie and started with Cage A. By 10, she had discovered that inventory work revealed a different kind of story. The company did not have a shortage of supplies. It had a timing problem. Boxes arrived, requests were made, approvals happened. But information moved slowly between the people using things and the people ordering them. A shelf held 12 unopened ergonomic mop handles, while 2 floors upstairs cleaners were still using older models with cracked grips. "Why are these here?" Maya asked Eddie. He checked the labels. "Replacement batch." "When did they arrive?" 3 weeks ago." "Why were they not distributed?" "I was waiting for the old equipment list to be finalized." "Could we give them to people now and update the list after?" Eddie looked at her as if the answer was obvious only after she asked. "Yeah, we could." Maya wrote another note. The pattern was changing shape. Some problems came from arrogance, some came from fear. Others came from procedures that had outlived the reason they existed. At 11, Claire slipped through the basement door carrying a folder. "You are hard to find now." "Apparently that is the point." Claire glanced toward the shelves. "Did Vanessa send you down here?" "Facilities sent me. Vanessa suggested it." Claire understood. She lowered her voice. "I found something you should know. If it is confidential, I do not want documents. It is not employee-specific. It is an old process guide." She opened the folder to a printed flowchart. Meridian's local HR teams were evaluated partly on issue resolution speed. Faster closure improved their quarterly service score. The metric made sense in theory. Employees should not wait weeks for answers. But the guide defined resolution as the date a case was closed in the system, not the date the employee confirmed the concern was actually resolved. Maya stared at the page. "So if you close it fast, the score improves?" "Yes. Even if the person is still unhappy. Technically, a case can be reopened. If the person knows how." Claire said nothing. "Does Gabriel see this score?" "Senior leadership sees aggregate HR service metrics. Probably not this formula." Maya imagined her father's monthly dashboard. Green arrows, percentages, neat labels. Local teams congratulated for rapid resolution. A clean number built on an incomplete definition. "This is bigger than Vanessa," Maya said. Claire looked surprised. "You think so?" "If the company rewards people for closing the door quickly, some people will eventually stop checking whether anyone is still standing outside it." Claire leaned against a shelf. "You talk about Meridian like it belongs to you." The words landed between them. Maya forced a small laugh. "Everyone talks like that when they are frustrated." Claire did not laugh back. "Do they?" Before Maya could answer, the basement door opened. Vanessa entered. Claire straightened so quickly that the folder nearly slipped from her hands. "Claire, what are you doing here?" "Inventory had a question about HR storage labels," Claire said. It was not a good lie. Vanessa looked at the folder, then at Maya. "Interesting." Maya set down the clipboard. "Is there something you need?" "Actually, yes. Maya, you and I should talk upstairs later." "About?" "Your role." Vanessa left. Claire exhaled. That went well. "You are a terrible liar." "I work in HR. We are trained to use careful wording, not improvise fiction." Maya smiled despite herself. After lunch, Eddie asked Maya to help clear an old filing area in the neighboring storage room. Most of the boxes contained expired vendor catalogs, safety posters, and outdated training binders. Then Maya opened a carton labeled Engagement, Facilities. Inside were hundreds of paper feedback forms. What are these? Eddie looked over. Old contractor survey before everything went digital. Were they entered somewhere? Some years, probably. Maya lifted the top form. No names. Just handwritten comments. Need better carts. Break room refrigerator leaks. Schedules changed too late. Would like supervisors to speak more respectfully. Please tell us when overtime changes before payday. Maya picked up another stack. The dates were 3 years old, then 4, then 5. Same themes, different handwriting. Why were these kept? Eddie shrugged. Records. Did anyone respond? I do not know. That was before my time. Maya sat back on her heels. She felt something deeper than anger now, embarrassment. She had spent years defending Meridian in conversations with classmates and friends. She had repeated her father's proudest lines about employee opportunity and long-term careers. She had believed them because Gabriel believed them. Maybe that was the hardest part. Good intentions had not protected the company from blind spots. At 4, Vanessa summoned Maya to a small HR office. There was no Derek this time. No audience. You have received coaching and 1 formal warning, Vanessa began. Now I'm hearing that you are asking employees about internal processes, surveys, and HR cases. I ask questions when something affects my work. You are a facilities contractor. I know. Then why are you so interested in how Meridian manages employee concerns? Maya met her eyes. Because I work here too. Through a vendor. Does that make my experience less real? Vanessa's expression softened slightly, but her tone remained firm. No. It means there are channels. You need to use the correct ones. Which channel would you recommend? Vanessa paused. Maya did not smile. She genuinely wanted the answer. Start with your facilities supervisor. And if the concern is about something beyond facilities, then he escalates it. And if it involves HR? Vanessa's jaw tightened. Then HR handles it. The circle was complete. Maya nodded slowly. Thank you. She left without arguing. That evening she took photographs of the box labels, not the individual forms, and sent Gabriel one message. Maya, I found 5 years of people saying the same small things in different ways. His reply came quickly. Gabriel, are you ready for me to act? Maya looked at the old forms stacked in the dim basement. Maya, not yet. I need to know why no one heard them. This time Gabriel did not answer immediately. When his message finally appeared, it contained only 4 words. Gabriel, then keep listening carefully. Friday morning brought music to the lobby, fresh flowers to the reception desk, and a banner celebrating Meridian's best quarter in company history. Employees were gathering for an afternoon recognition event. Sales had exceeded its target. Customer retention was up. Several teams would receive awards. Derek Caldwell was scheduled to give the opening remarks. Maya read the event notice while emptying a recycling bin. Perfect, Lorna said beside her. What is perfect? A celebration on the day we have 3 people out and twice the cleanup. Maya smiled. You have a gift for optimism. Years of practice. The event itself was not the problem. Maya understood why companies celebrated results. People deserved recognition. But as she moved between floors that morning, she noticed how many invisible tasks were required to make visible success look effortless. Facilities rolled in tables before sunrise. Reception rearranged schedules. Security redirected deliveries. Contractors carried boxes of branded gifts. Cafeteria staff prepared trays for hundreds of employees. None of those teams appeared on the recognition list. At 11, Maya found Nina Patel checking the event layout. Ms. Patel. Nina turned. Process problem? Maya almost smiled. Maybe. Those are my favorite kind. Maya pointed toward the banner listing award categories. How are support teams recognized? Nina followed her gaze. Facilities has vendor recognition programs. Do they attend this event? Nina hesitated. Some supervisors do. Not the workers? Usually they are covering the building during it. Maya let the silence answer for her. Nina exhaled. That looks worse when you say it out loud. Most process problems do. You have been here, what, 2 weeks? Almost. And you have opinions about everything. Maya braced herself. Nina smiled. I mean that as a compliment, mostly. She walked away before Maya could decide whether to trust the moment. At noon, Claire found Maya in the service corridor. I figured out why complaint volume matters so much to some managers. Maya looked around. Not here. They moved into an empty training room. Claire opened a public internal performance document, the kind available to managers across Meridian. It listed leadership scorecard categories, financial results, customer outcomes, retention, engagement, and organizational health. Look at this, Claire said. Organizational health included unresolved people issues. A high number could lower a manager's quarterly score. That is reasonable, Maya said. Unresolved issues should matter. Yes, but the number comes from open cases. Maya understood immediately. So closing a case improves the score, even if the underlying problem continues. And Derek's department has strong organizational health because his concerns are being closed as general issues instead of staying attached to his management record. Claire nodded. I cannot prove anyone designed it that way. I think the system evolved. People learned what numbers leadership watched, and they optimized for the numbers. Maya sat in one of the training chairs. This was the pattern she had been searching for. Not one villain controlling everything. Incentives, a metric that rewarded speed without measuring trust. A survey that excluded contractors. A process that allowed corrections to sit because each one looked too small to trigger attention. Leaders who believed silence meant satisfaction. Employees who learned that speaking up could create more work than staying quiet. The company had not built cruelty into its policies. It had built distance into its systems, and distance had made cruelty easier to ignore. Claire, I need you to stop digging for me. Claire looked startled. Why? Because this is no longer about finding more examples. We have enough to know the system needs review. I do not want you risking your job because I kept asking questions. You are risking yours. Maya almost laughed at the difference between them. Mine is complicated. That is what I have been trying to figure out. Before Maya could respond, someone opened the training room door. Vanessa stood there. Her eyes went from Claire to Maya. Again? Claire rose. We were discussing workflow. Claire, return to HR. Maya, stay. When the door closed, Vanessa remained standing. I have tried to be patient with you. I know. Do you? Because I have asked you more than once to stay within your role. I have been doing my assigned work. And questioning managers, asking about HR systems, talking to senior leaders, and pulling my staff into conversations. Maya kept her voice calm. I did not pull Claire anywhere. You are missing the point. Then tell me the point. Vanessa looked genuinely frustrated now, not cruel. The point is that organizations cannot function if everyone decides every process is theirs to investigate. There are responsibilities, access levels, and lines of accountability for a reason. For the first time, Maya heard something in Vanessa's argument that she agreed with. That made the situation harder. You're right, Maya said. Vanessa blinked. There do need to be lines, Maya continued. But what happens when every line sends the same concern back to the person who benefits from closing it? Vanessa's face became still. What exactly are you accusing me of? Nothing. I am asking a process question. The phrase Nina had used. Vanessa sat across from her. Maya, I am going to recommend that the vendor end your assignment at Meridian. The words were quiet. For a moment, Maya heard only the air conditioning. She had known this was possible. Gabriel could stop it with one phone call, one sentence, one revelation. Instead, she asked, When? There will be a review Monday morning. Until then, finish today's shift. Maya nodded. Thank you for telling me directly. Vanessa looked almost confused by her composure. At 2, the recognition event began. Applause rolled through the atrium as Derek stepped onto the platform and spoke about teamwork, excellence, and the people who made Meridian successful. Maya stood at the edge of the room with Lorna, both holding trash liners and waiting for the crowd to move so they could begin cleanup. Derek raised a glass of sparkling water. This quarter proves what happens when every person brings their best. Maya looked at the catering staff behind the doors, the security officer watching the entrance, Lorna beside her. Eddie near the service elevator, every person. The words sounded different now. Then Nina Patel walked onto the platform unexpectedly. "Before we continue," she said, taking the microphone, "I think we missed a category." She thanked facilities, reception, security, cafeteria staff and contractors who had prepared the building before most employees arrived. The applause that followed was not enormous, but it was real. Lorna looked at Maya suspiciously. "Did you do that?" "No." For once, Maya was telling the complete truth. Nina had noticed on her own. That mattered. At the end of the day, Maya sat on a bench outside the building and called Gabriel. "Vanessa wants the vendor to end my assignment Monday." There was a pause. "Do you want me there?" Maya looked back at the glass tower. 2 weeks earlier, she would have said yes. Now she thought of every worker who had entered a meeting without a father waiting 40 floors above. "No," she said. "Not at first." "Maya, I need to walk into that room as Maya Santos. If the process is fair, it should be fair without anyone knowing who my father is." Gabriel was quiet for several seconds. "And if it is not?" Maya watched employees leave through the revolving doors, laughing as they carried award bags to their cars. "Then we will finally know exactly what needs to change." She ended the call and opened her notebook. On the final page, she wrote one sentence. "A system shows its values most clearly when it believes nobody important is watching." On Monday morning, Maya was going to find out whether Meridian could pass its own test. Monday arrived with a California sky and a strange quiet before an important conversation. Maya reached Meridian 20 minutes early, changed into her grey uniform, and stood for a moment in front of the service room mirror. The mark on her sleeve from the coffee incident had washed out. What remained was the memory of the room going silent, while everyone decided whether helping her was worth the inconvenience. Lorna found her tying back her hair. "You look like you are going to a job interview." "In a way, I am." "Vanessa's meeting?" Maya nodded. Lorna's face tightened. "You want me to come with you?" "That is kind, but no. If they ask about your experience, tell the truth. Otherwise, I need to walk in alone." Lorna studied her. "You have become very good at saying brave things in a calm voice. I am mostly trying not to shake." At 9 o'clock, Maya entered a small conference room on the 4th floor. Vanessa Cole sat at one end of the table with a representative from the facilities vendor. Eddie Ruiz was there as Maya's direct supervisor. A printed folder rested in front of Vanessa. "Maya," Vanessa began, "this is a routine assignment review. There have been concerns about fit, boundaries, and your tendency to involve yourself in matters outside your role." Maya sat straight. "Could you be specific?" Vanessa opened the folder. "You questioned payroll processes, requested information from departments you do not support, spoke directly with a senior manager about equipment replacement, and challenged instructions during active work periods." Maya recognized each event. What surprised her was how different they sounded when arranged as accusations. "May I respond to them one at a time?" The vendor representative glanced at Vanessa, then nodded. Maya explained the payroll questions without mentioning the photographs she had taken. She described the damaged cart and Nina Patel's invitation to report process problems. She explained that her questions about complaint routing came only after being told conflicting things by different people. She did not raise her voice. She did not mention Gabriel. She did not ask for special treatment. When she finished, Eddie shifted in his chair. "For what it is worth," he said, "Maya does her assigned work. I have not written her up for performance." Vanessa looked at him. "This is not only about performance." A knock sounded at the door. Nina Patel stepped in, holding a slim laptop. "Sorry," she said. "I asked to join." Vanessa looked surprised. "This is a vendor personnel matter. It became an operations matter when my name appeared in the documentation." Nina sat beside Eddie. "I invited Maya to contact me about process issues. I would prefer that not be presented as misconduct. The air in the room changed slightly. Vanessa closed the folder halfway. That is one item. Then let us examine the others, Nina said. For the next 40 minutes, the meeting became something Maya had not expected. Not a rescue, but a test of the system in real time. Nina asked where the concern about Maya's boundaries had originated. Eddie asked why he had not been consulted before the request to end the assignment. The vendor representative asked whether Maya had ever received a written description of which questions custodial staff were prohibited from asking. No one could produce one. Then Claire Bennett appeared at the open doorway. I have information relevant to the review, she said. Vanessa's expression hardened. Claire, this is not your meeting. I know, but some of the examples in that folder were routed through employee relations. I reviewed the records because they were in my queue. Maya met Claire's eyes. Claire looked nervous, but she did not look away. She placed several pages on the table. They were not confidential employee complaints. They were process summaries, dates, routing categories, closure codes, and the names of departments responsible for follow-up. What are we looking at? Nina asked. A pattern, Claire said. Concerns involving hourly and contracted workers are being closed more often as informal coaching, even when the employee asked for follow-up. The notes are inconsistent. Some cases show no contact after the initial report. Vanessa drew a breath. That does not mean anyone acted improperly. Informal resolution is allowed. Of course, Claire said, but I cannot tell from the records whether the employees agreed that the issue was resolved. Maya felt something settle inside her. For 2 weeks, she had wondered whether she was seeing too much because she expected to learn a lesson. Now 3 people who did not know her identity were asking the same questions. The problem was real, even without her name. Nina turned to the vendor representative. I do not support ending Maya's assignment today. I recommend a temporary hold while we review the process. Eddie nodded. Agreed. Vanessa looked from face to face. You are all treating routine management judgment like a corporate crisis. No, Maya said quietly. We are treating routine management judgment like something that should be explainable. Vanessa's eyes fixed on her. For a moment, Maya thought she had gone too far. Then the vendor representative closed his folder. The assignment continues for now. The meeting ended at 10:07. Maya stepped into the corridor, feeling lighter and heavier at the same time. She had won nothing. No one had apologized. No policy had changed. But the process had been forced to answer a question it normally avoided. Was this fair? Claire caught up with her near the elevators. I almost did not come in, she admitted. Why did you? Because if I waited until I felt completely safe, I would probably wait forever. Maya smiled. Thank you. Claire lowered her voice. There is more. Nina asked for a limited review of closure codes. She wants me on it. That is good. It may not feel good to Vanessa. Maya glanced back toward the conference room. Vanessa was still inside, speaking rapidly to someone on her phone. At lunch, Maya sat with Lorna behind the loading dock, where a narrow strip of shade fell across the concrete. So? Lorna asked. I still have a job. Lorna exhaled dramatically. Wonderful. Now you can help me with the 11th floor kitchen. Maya laughed. Then Lorna's expression softened. Did anyone listen? Yes. Really listen. Maya thought of Claire walking into a room she had not been invited to enter. She thought of Eddie speaking when silence would have been easier. She thought of Nina refusing to let her own invitation be rewritten as misconduct. Yes, Maya said, a few people did. Lorna nodded as if that answer mattered more than the job itself. That evening, Maya called Gabriel from the bus stop. He answered on the first ring. How did it go? They kept me. I know. Maya smiled despite herself. June told you. June tells me when the building is on fire. Today she said it was only smoking. Dad, I am joking. Maya looked at the tower glowing in the late sun. The process failed at first, she said, but when people had room to question it, it corrected itself a little. That matters. And Vanessa? I do not think she sees herself as unfair. I think she sees herself as efficient. Gabriel was quiet. "That may be harder to change," he said. "I know." A bus pulled toward the curb. "Maya," Gabriel said, "when are you ready for me to step in?" She watched the doors open. "Soon," she said, "but not until I understand whether Meridian has bad people or good people working inside bad habits." She boarded the bus with her cleaning shoes in a tote bag and her notebook pressed against her side. For the first time, Maya no longer wanted a dramatic answer. She wanted an accurate one. The review Nina requested was supposed to be small. By Tuesday afternoon, it was not. Claire began with 30 employee relations files from the previous year, selected by closure code rather than department. She removed names before sharing summaries with Nina. The purpose was simple: determine whether employees who raised concerns were actually contacted before their cases were marked resolved. What they found was not a conspiracy. It was in some ways more ordinary than that. Managers were rewarded for closing issues quickly. Human resources tracked open case volume. Department leaders disliked unresolved complaints appearing in quarterly reports. Over time, everyone had learned the same lesson without anyone formally teaching it. A closed problem looked better than an open one. Sometimes the issue had genuinely been solved. Sometimes the employee had stopped asking. The system treated both outcomes almost the same. Maya learned this from Claire during a 10-minute conversation beside the copy room. "I kept expecting to find one terrible decision," Claire said. "Instead, I found hundreds of small convenient ones." "That sounds familiar." Claire gave her a tired smile. "The strange thing is, most of the notes are written by people who probably thought they were helping. By making the problem disappear. By keeping things moving." Maya looked through the glass wall at the office beyond them. Phones rang. Keyboards clicked. Someone laughed beside the coffee machine. Meridian looked exactly as it always had. That was what unsettled her. Bad systems rarely announced themselves with alarms. Often they looked like ordinary workdays. On Wednesday morning, Nina called a meeting with facilities, payroll, employee relations and operations. Maya was not invited and she did not expect to be. She spent the morning cleaning training rooms and replacing supplies, while decisions were discussed 3 floors above her. At noon, Eddie appeared beside her cart. "Good news," he said. "What happened?" "Starting next pay period, no more automatic equipment charges for contracted custodial staff. If something is damaged, there has to be a documented review first." Maya blinked. "That fast?" Turns out finance thought facilities was verifying the charges. Facilities thought the vendor was. The vendor thought payroll had the documentation. So nobody was. Eddie shook his head. Not consistently. Maya thought about Lorna's old paycheck stubs, the tiny amounts that had seemed too small for anyone upstairs to notice. Are they correcting past deductions? They are auditing them. That is better than I expected. Eddie leaned on the cart handle. You know, you ask questions like an auditor. Maya smiled carefully. Maybe I missed my calling. Maybe. He walked away before she had to invent anything else. By then, Derek had heard enough to realize changes were happening around him. He found Maya in the executive lounge after lunch, wiping fingerprints from the glass doors. "You have been busy," he said. Maya continued working. "It has been a busy week. I hear people are reviewing old complaints. I would not know." Derek laughed once. "Come on. You show up, start asking questions, and suddenly everyone is auditing everything." Maya turned toward him. Maybe people were already wondering. "You think you are proving something?" "I think I am cleaning a door." He stared at her for several seconds. 2 weeks earlier, that stare would have made her heart race. Now she noticed something different. Derek was not powerful in that moment. He was uncertain. People who were used to rooms adjusting around them often mistook uncertainty for insult. He lowered his voice. "You should be careful about making enemies in a company you barely know." Maya set the cloth on her cart. "I am not trying to make enemies." "Then stop acting like everyone owes you an explanation." She considered that. Maybe explanations should not depend on who asks. Derek's expression changed, but before he could answer, Nina entered the lounge. "Derek," she said, "I need you in Conference B at 2. "For what?" "Management process review." He looked at Maya, then back at Nina. Is this about her? Nina's face remained neutral. It is about management process. Derek left without another word. Nina waited until the door closed. You okay? Yes. You do not have to tolerate being questioned while you work. Maya almost smiled at the irony. Thank you. Nina started to leave, then stopped. One thing. The maintenance team found something connected to the coffee incident. Maya's hand tightened around the cloth. What? The lounge camera was never broken. The footage was archived under the wrong date after a system update. Security located it this morning. Maya stared at her. Did you watch it? I did. Maya remembered the cup tipping, Derek's impatient gesture, the coffee spreading across her sleeve, and the silence afterward. Nina continued carefully. It shows that you handed him the cup. He pushed it away sharply and the lid came loose. It does not look planned, but it also shows what happened after. No one helped. One person started to. Derek told her it was fine. Vanessa arrived later and never asked whether you needed medical attention. The report calls it a minor service incident. Maya felt no satisfaction. The truth was almost exactly as she remembered it. Derek had not entered the lounge intending to burn anyone. He had been careless, impatient, and so certain that Maya did not matter that her discomfort became secondary to his annoyance. That was enough. What will happen? Maya asked. The footage becomes part of the review. Nothing more dramatic than that today. Good. Nina looked surprised. Good? I do not want dramatic, I want accurate. Nina studied her for a moment. You keep saying things that sound like they belong in leadership meetings. Maya picked up the cloth again. Maybe leadership meetings need more people who clean doors. Nina laughed softly and left. That evening, Maya visited Gabriel's office after nearly everyone had gone home. She took the private elevator for the first time since beginning the assignment. The executive floor felt different now. The carpet was softer. The air smelled faintly of cedar. The conference tables shone under recessed lights. Gabriel stood by the window. You came upstairs, he said. I think I am ready. He did not ask what she meant. Maya placed her notebook on his desk. I thought I would find villains, she said. There are a few people who made selfish choices. But mostly I found incentives, silence, fear of inconvenience and people assuming somebody else was responsible. Gabriel opened the notebook, but did not read it. What do you want me to do? Do not fire everyone who made a mistake. His eyebrows lifted. 2 weeks ago you wanted to clean house. I was angry. And now? Now I want us to fix the house. Gabriel smiled slowly. Maya continued. There should be consequences where they are deserved. But if we only replace names and keep the same incentives, we will be back here in a year. Her father closed the notebook. Thursday, he said. Company-wide meeting. I will have the board review the preliminary findings first. Maya's stomach tightened. And my identity? That is your decision. She looked toward the dark windows, where her reflection stood beside his. For years, Maya had wondered whether being Gabriel Navarro's daughter made her important. After weeks in a grey uniform, the question felt almost embarrassing. I will tell them, she said, but I want the lesson to be the opposite. The opposite of what? That they should have treated me well because I was your daughter. Gabriel nodded. Maya picked up her notebook. They should have treated me well when they thought I was nobody. Thursday morning began like every other morning Maya had spent at Meridian. She arrived before 7, changed into the grey uniform, checked the supply cart, and joined Lorna on the 12th floor. The company-wide meeting was scheduled for 3. Maya had told no one, not Lorna, not Claire, not Eddie, not Nina. For the first several hours, she wanted one final ordinary day. At 8:15, Lorna complained that someone had left 3 mugs in a conference room 10 steps from the kitchenette. At least they are consistent, Maya said. At disappointing me? At giving you material. Lorna smiled. You are learning. At 9:40, Claire passed Maya near the elevators and whispered that the preliminary review had expanded again. Several departments had voluntarily submitted their own process concerns after hearing what Nina was examining. People are coming forward without being asked, Claire said. Maybe they were waiting for proof that someone would listen. Maybe. Claire hesitated. Vanessa is in the meeting this afternoon. Derek, too. I heard. You seem very calm. I am not. At 11, Derek crossed the lounge while Maya refilled napkins. He did not make a joke. He did not ask for coffee. He simply said, "Morning," and kept walking. It was the first time he had greeted her like a colleague. The change should have felt satisfying. Instead, Maya wondered whether he had changed, because he had reflected on his behavior, or because he sensed that the room around him was changing. There was a difference. At lunch, Maya and Lorna sat in their usual place behind the loading dock. Lorna had brought pancit in a plastic container and pushed half toward Maya. "You feed me too much," Maya said. "You work too much." "That sounds familiar." Lorna pointed her fork at her. "Do not use my own words against me." Maya smiled, then became quiet. "Tea to Lorna." Lorna looked up at the word. Maya had used the affectionate Filipino title only a few times, always softly. "What? If you learned something surprising about me, would you think I had lied to you?" Lorna frowned. "That depends. Are you secretly 45? Maya laughed despite her nerves. "No." "Married with 6 children?" "No." "Then I can probably survive it." Maya looked down at the noodles. "I have not told you everything about why I came here." Lorna's expression changed, not to suspicion, but concern. "Are you leaving?" "Not exactly." Before Maya could say more, Eddie opened the loading dock door. "There you two are. Facilities staff are supposed to be in the auditorium at 3. Full company meeting." Lorna groaned. "If this is another quarterly celebration, I am hiding behind the trash compactor." "It is not," Eddie said. "CEO is speaking." Maya's pulse quickened. At 2:50, hundreds of employees moved toward Meridian's central auditorium, others joined by live stream from satellite offices. Custodial staff usually stood near the back during large meetings, partly because they often had to begin cleanup before everyone else left. Maya stood beside Lorna. On stage, Gabriel waited behind a simple podium. June Park sat in the front row with members of the board. Nina and Claire were several seats away. Vanessa sat stiffly near the aisle. Derek kept checking his phone. At exactly 3, the lights dimmed. Gabriel stepped forward. "Good afternoon," he began. "I intended to speak today about Meridian's strongest quarter in company history. I still believe our results deserve recognition. But numbers can tell us how a company performed without telling us what kind of company performed them." The room quieted. For the last several weeks, we have been reviewing concerns involving employee relations processes, contractor practices, equipment charges, complaint routing, management conduct, and the way information moves from frontline workers to senior leadership. Maya saw Lorna straighten beside her. Gabriel continued. "We found processes that were unclear. We found incentives that rewarded speed over listening. We found managers who made poor judgments. We also found employees who asked difficult questions, corrected mistakes, and chose to speak when silence would have been easier." Claire looked down at her hands. "Some changes are already underway," Gabriel said. "Equipment deductions are being audited. Complaint closures will now require documented employee follow-up. Contracted workers will receive clearer escalation paths independent of their immediate supervisors. Management evaluations will include workplace conduct and response quality, not only financial results." A low murmur moved through the room. Gabriel paused. "There is another reason I asked everyone here." Maya felt Lorna's shoulder against hers. "For almost a month, someone has been working in this building under circumstances known to only a handful of people. She cleaned meeting rooms. She emptied trash. She rode the bus to work. She ate lunch with facilities staff. She was corrected, ignored, occasionally helped, and sometimes treated in ways that should embarrass us." Lorna turned slowly toward Maya. Maya could not look at her yet. Gabriel's voice softened. "She did this because I refused to give her the executive position she believed she was ready for." The room became completely still. "Maya Santos," Gabriel said. "Would you come up here?" Maya stepped away from the back wall. Lorna stared at her. Claire's mouth opened slightly. Derek stopped moving. Vanessa's face lost all color. Maya walked down the center aisle in the same grey uniform she had worn while cleaning that morning. Hundreds of eyes followed her. When she reached the stage, Gabriel did not introduce her immediately. He simply handed her the microphone. Maya looked across the auditorium. "My name is Maya Santos," she said. "I was born in Cebu, Philippines, and moved to California as a teenager. Santos was my mother's family name. The reason most of you have never connected it to this company is because my father's name is Gabriel Navarro." A wave of astonishment crossed the room. Maya glanced toward the back. Lorna still had one hand over her mouth. "Yes," Maya continued. "I am his daughter." Derek stared at the floor. Maya took a breath. "I know what some of you are thinking. You are remembering every cup you left behind, every impatient word, every time you walked past me without seeing me. But I do not want anyone to leave this room believing the lesson is that the janitor might secretly be related to the CEO." She paused. "That would be the worst lesson we could learn." The auditorium was silent. "The lesson is that it should not matter." Maya looked at Lorna. "Respect should not depend on a last name. Fairness should not depend on a job title. And a person should not need someone powerful standing behind them before their question deserves an answer." For the first time that afternoon, Maya's hands stopped trembling. She finally understood why. The silence after Maya's speech lasted only a few seconds, but to her it felt much longer. Then someone near the center of the auditorium began to clap. Maya never learned who started it. The applause spread unevenly at first, then filled the room. She did not experience it as triumph. In fact, she wished it would stop. Applause was easy. The harder part would begin when everyone returned to their desks. Gabriel stepped back to the microphone. "Thank you, Maya. I want to be clear about what happens next. Today is not a public trial, and this meeting is not a place for humiliation. Personnel decisions will be handled privately and fairly. Anyone affected by the review will have an opportunity to respond." Maya was grateful he said it. She had spent enough time on the lower floors to know that dignity mattered even when someone had made mistakes. Gabriel continued. "We are establishing a 90-day workplace practices review led by operations, legal, finance, and an independent employee experience advisor. Nina Patel will coordinate internally. Claire Bennett will support the employee relations portion. Facilities and contracted worker representatives will have seats at the table." Lorna looked around as if checking whether facilities representatives could possibly mean people like her. "It does," Maya said quietly from the side of the stage, though Lorna could not hear her. The meeting ended without dramatic dismissals or security escorts. Employees returned to work carrying questions instead of award bags. Derek was asked to step away from people management duties while his conduct was reviewed. Vanessa remained in her position temporarily, but no longer controlled the review of cases she had previously overseen. Both decisions were administrative, measured, and far less theatrical than office gossip wanted them to be. That mattered to Maya. Justice, she was learning, did not have to look like revenge to be real. She found Lorna in the service room 20 minutes later. Lorna stood with both hands on her hips. Maya closed the door behind her. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Then Lorna said, "Cebu?" Maya blinked. "That is your first question? You told me your mother was from the Visayas. You did not tell me you were born there." Maya laughed nervously. "I thought the CEO daughter part might come first." "Oh, that part is coming." Lorna walked closer. "You ate my rice." Maya stared at her. "You let me split my lunch with you while your father owns the building." "I was on the allowance he gave me for the assignment." Lorna's eyes widened. "That does not make it better." Maya covered her face with one hand, laughing for the first time all day. Then Lorna's expression softened. "Why did you not tell me?" The laughter disappeared. "Because at first I was afraid you would treat me differently. And later I was afraid you would think our friendship was part of the assignment." Lorna became quiet. "Was it?" "No." The answer came immediately. Maya stepped closer. "You were the first person here who treated me like I mattered when you thought I had nothing to offer you. You taught me more about this company than any report ever could. Lorna's eyes filled, though she smiled. I also taught you how to remove dried coffee from white laminate. That may be equally valuable. Lorna pulled Maya into a hug. You should have told me sooner, she whispered. I know. I would still have made you clean the bathrooms. I know that too. Across the next 2 weeks, Meridian changed in ways both visible and almost invisible. A new complaint portal allowed employees and contractors to request follow-up outside their normal reporting chain. Every closed case required a confirmation step. Payroll corrected equipment and uniform deductions that could not be supported by documentation. Break schedules for contracted staff were posted clearly, instead of depending on informal permission. The cafeteria policy changed as well. It was Nina's idea, though Maya supported it immediately. If Meridian provided meals during company-wide events, everyone working that event would be included, regardless of badge color or employer name. Lorna called it the most delicious policy reform in corporate history. Not every problem disappeared. Some managers complained that the new process created extra paperwork. Others worried that employees would raise too many minor issues. Gabriel's response was simple. If the company had time to measure customer satisfaction to the decimal point, it could find time to ask workers whether their concerns had actually been resolved. Claire changed too. She stopped apologizing before asking difficult questions. During one review meeting, a senior director interrupted her twice. On the 3rd attempt, Claire calmly said, I would like to finish the point, and continued speaking. Maya watched from the end of the table and smiled. Derek eventually met with Maya privately, with Nina present. He looked different without the confidence of an audience. I owe you an apology, he said. Maya waited. The coffee incident, the comments, the way I spoke to you. I kept telling myself I was joking or moving fast. Watching the footage back, I did not like the person I saw. Maya appreciated that he did not add an excuse. Thank you for saying that. I know it probably does not fix anything. It does not erase it, Maya said. But acknowledging it is not nothing. Derek nodded. The review concluded that he could remain with Meridian, but not immediately return to management. He entered a structured leadership development plan and moved into an individual contributor role. Some employees thought the consequence was too soft. Others thought it was severe. Maya thought it was useful. Vanessa's outcome was different. The review found that she had repeatedly prioritized closure metrics over meaningful follow-up and had ignored warnings from her own team. She was removed from employee relations and offered a non-supervisory compliance role, while the company determined whether she could rebuild trust. Vanessa accepted. When Maya heard, she felt no victory, only relief that Meridian had chosen correction over spectacle. At the end of the month, Gabriel invited Maya to dinner at a quiet Filipino restaurant in Costa Mesa. He arrived without June, without a driver waiting at the door, and without his usual stack of messages. You finished 30 days, he said. So I did. He placed an envelope on the table. Maya looked at it. What is that? The offer you wanted before all this began. Inside was a formal appointment to Vice President of People and Operations Strategy. 4 weeks earlier, Maya would have read every line twice. Now she closed the folder. No, Gabriel leaned back. No, I am not ready. A slow smile appeared on his face. That, he said, is the first thing you have said about leadership that makes me think you might be. Maya smiled too. I want to apply for the operational leadership program. The regular one. The one with 3 interviews, rotations, and a 6-month probation? Yes. You know the panel will recognize you now. Then make the panel include outside evaluators. Gabriel laughed. You really did become difficult. Tita Lorna says I was always difficult. Lorna is an excellent judge of character. Maya looked down at the unopened offer letter. For the first time in her life, refusing power did not feel like losing something. It felt like choosing the kind of person she wanted to become. 3 months later, morning light struck Meridian's glass tower in silver bands. Maya arrived at 8:20 carrying a laptop bag instead of a cleaning cart. She wore a navy blazer, simple black shoes, and a visitor-style badge printed with the words, Leadership Development Program. The badge made her smile. Everyone knew who she was now, yet the program gave her the same temporary credential as every other participant. That had been her request. Her interviews had not been symbolic. 2 external managers and 1 board advisor had questioned her about budgeting, employee operations, conflict resolution, and the risks of family ownership. One interviewer asked why 30 days in facilities made her qualified to lead thousands of people. Maya answered, "It did not. It taught me how much I still needed to learn." She received the offer the next afternoon. Her first rotation was not human resources. It was supply chain operations. Gabriel claimed he had nothing to do with the assignment. Maya did not believe him. She stepped off the elevator on the 12th floor before reporting to orientation. Lorna was beside the kitchenette, arguing cheerfully with a new automated soap dispenser. "You are pressing it too close," Maya said. Lorna turned. "Well, look at you. Good morning. Fancy jacket. Temporary badge. Still fancy." Maya hugged her. Lorna's schedule had changed after the workplace review. She still worked full-time because she wanted to, but her shift now started later 2 days a week, so she could help with her grandson's school drop-off. She had also agreed to serve as one of 2 facilities representatives on Meridian's Employee Experience Council. At first, she had refused. "I clean offices," she told Nina. "I do not sit in councils." Nina answered, "That is exactly why you should." Lorna eventually accepted on the condition that meetings never be scheduled during her lunch. It became an unofficial rule for everyone. "How is the council?" Maya asked. "Too many slides." "Anything useful?" "We got anti-fatigue mats approved for the service stations." "That sounds useful. And the night crew finally has access to the employee shuttle after 10. Maya smiled. "Very useful." Lorna pointed toward the coffee station. "Go look." "What? Just go." Beside the machine was a small sign. "If you spill it, please wipe it. Under this roof, everyone cleans up after themselves." Maya laughed. "Who approved that?" "I did." "You cannot approve signs." "I am on a council now. I approve everything." They were still laughing when Claire approached carrying a tablet. Claire had been promoted to Senior Employee Relations Analyst after the review. She had almost refused because she worried people would assume the promotion was a reward for helping Maya. Nina solved the concern by opening the role competitively and assigning an external interviewer. Claire earned the highest score. "You are going to be late for orientation," she told Maya. "Good morning to you too." "I am serious. They started without someone last month." "Who?" "Someone whose father did not own the company." Maya stared at her. Claire smiled. "Exactly." "Move." Maya said goodbye to Lorna and headed toward the elevator. Before the doors closed, a young employee hurried from the coffee station carrying a stack of folders. His elbow caught the edge of a paper cup. Coffee splashed across the counter. He stopped. 3 months earlier, Maya would have expected him to keep walking. Instead, he set down the folders, grabbed a towel from the dispenser, wiped the counter, and replaced the towel when he finished. No one applauded. No manager praised him. He simply cleaned his own mess and left. Maya watched the elevator doors close. It was a tiny thing. That was why it mattered. Real culture, she had learned, was made of tiny things repeated when nobody expected recognition. Her orientation was held in a training room with 11 other participants. Some were recent graduates. Others had spent years inside Meridian. One had worked in manufacturing. Another came from customer support. Maya recognized only 2 faces. The facilitator began by asking everyone to introduce themselves without mentioning job titles. When Maya's turn came, several people looked curious. She could have said daughter of the CEO. She could have mentioned her degree or the headlines that had circulated after the company meeting. Instead, she said, "I am Maya. I grew up between Cebu and California. I like old movies, strong coffee, and asking too many questions." The woman beside her laughed. "Strong coffee," she said. "That seems risky around here." For half a second, the room froze. Then Maya laughed first. The others followed. Something inside her loosened. The coffee incident no longer belonged to Derek, Vanessa, or the people who had looked away. It had become one moment in a much larger story. At noon, Gabriel sent her a message. "Gabriel, how is day 1? Maya: They gave us a 40-page operations manual. Gabriel: Character building. Maya: You are enjoying this too much. Gabriel: Maybe. A second message arrived. Gabriel: Proud of you. Maya looked at the screen for a moment before responding. Maya: Thank you. But ask me again after probation. His reply was immediate. Gabriel: Definitely my daughter. That afternoon, the leadership group toured a distribution site in Tustin. Maya spent 2 hours listening to warehouse coordinators explain why a scheduling change that looked efficient on paper caused delays on the floor. Months earlier, she might have started offering solutions after 10 minutes. Now she asked questions. What happens before this step? Who has to wait when the schedule changes? What would make this easier? Who have you already told? The last question produced the most useful answers. On the drive back to Irvine, Maya looked through the van window at shopping centers, freeway signs, palm trees, and neighborhoods glowing in the late afternoon sun. She thought about the young woman who had entered Meridian, certain that leadership was something a person could inherit once they had accumulated enough education. That Maya had wanted a title because she believed a title would prove she was ready. The grey uniform had taught her something different. Leadership was not proof of importance. It was responsibility for noticing what importance often caused people to overlook. Near 5 o'clock, Maya returned to the 12th floor to retrieve a notebook she had left with Claire. Most employees were heading home. Lorna was pushing her cart toward the service elevator. Long day? Lorna asked. Very. Good, Maya smiled. You sound like my father. Your father sounds smart. Do not tell him that. They walked together toward the elevator. Maya reached for the cart automatically. Lorna raised an eyebrow. You know you do not work facilities anymore. I know. Then why are you pushing my cart? Maya looked at her. Because it is heavy. Lorna considered the answer, then moved aside. Fine, but only to the elevator. The doors opened. Maya pushed the cart inside. There were no cameras waiting, no executives watching, and no lesson left for her to perform. That was precisely why the moment felt complete. A person's character, Maya finally understood, was not revealed when everyone knew their name. It was revealed in the ordinary seconds when names, titles, status, and advantage stopped mattering. And a company was no different. It became worthy of respect only when the person at the very bottom of its hierarchy could expect the same basic dignity as the person at the top. Maya had entered Meridian hoping to prove she deserved to inherit her father's company. She left the elevator that evening, understanding that no one truly inherits the right to lead. That right has to be earned quietly, repeatedly, through the way people are seen, heard, and treated when there is nothing to gain from doing the right thing. Fim da narrativa.